Hey, this is Jesse with Create This. Today I wanted to review the Venom Pro Quad Charger. It's a 100 watt by 4 charger, and this is for like hobby LiPo batteries that you would use in quadcopters and things like that. This is a 500 milliamp hour Luminaire HV4S battery, and I have 4 of these. And then I also have larger batteries that I use for like 5-inch quads. I use this on like a 3-inch quad. And so a little bit of backstory. The reason why I bought this charger is because I was getting to the point where I was spending a lot of time actually charging my batteries, and it was getting in the way of me flying and doing other things in my life. So I started thinking to myself, you know, here I am waiting for this battery to charge, and it's going to interrupt me in a couple of minutes, and I'm going to have to go switch it out. And sometimes I would forget, and you know, an hour would go by or something, and the battery had been charged for a half an hour, and so I was like wasting all this time charging batteries, right? And when you get up to about 8 batteries, it starts to get really tedious. It's pretty tedious with 4 batteries, but 8 batteries is bad. So I started thinking to myself, well, this would be a lot easier if I had something that could charge 4 batteries at once, because most of my quads just have 4, I just buy 4 batteries for them because I get pretty tired of flying after I fly 4 packs in a row. So I did some research. Everything that I review on my channel, nobody sends this to me. It's not stuff that the manufacturer sends to me or anything like that. I did some research and I decided that I liked the Venom Pro Quad. So I bought it, and I've had it for about a month and a half. And so I'm just going to take some time and tell you what I think about it, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and I'll run through some like use case scenarios. I'll show you some ways to power it because it actually is pretty flexible as far as that goes. And we'll also talk about some safety considerations that I've discovered the hard way. I removed all of the cables because I didn't want to scare you, okay? It comes with a lot of cables. And strangely, it doesn't come with quite enough cables. You're probably going to find that you want to buy some more for it, but it does come with quite a few and it can be confusing. So looking at the front here, these white ports are the balanced charging ports. And you might notice, like, if you're like me and you're coming from a single channel charger like the IMAX B6AC, or something like that, you might be used to having a bunch of dedicated balance ports for different cell configurations in batteries. So you might have one white port for 4S, one for 3S, one for 2S, things like that. This charger doesn't do that. They don't have a whole lot of real estate on the front, so they've made a trade-off, and that is you can't plug a 4S battery directly into it. It just doesn't fit. So what they've done is they ship with it these balanced charging cables. And these things are pretty great. And so they plug into the front here like this. There we go. And on the front of the balanced charging cable, you have all of your battery configurations. So you've got slots for 2S, 3S, 4S, 5S, and 6S. And each one of these channels, each of these charging channels can handle up to 100 watts of power, which is quite a bit. I think my IMAX B6AC only went to, don't quote me on this, but I think it was like 50 watts or something like that. It wasn't anywhere near 100 watts. And so with this, you can plug in your balance cable for your 4S battery. And now all you need is some way to plug in the power lead. So it doesn't come with any XT30 connectors. This is an XT30. It comes with 2 XT60 connectors. These are XT60. And so this is the kind of battery connector that probably most of us are used to, and it's what most of us run on our 5-inch quads. But if you run the smaller quads, you might be starting to buy some XT30 connectors. So what I did is I just purchased some XT30s. I grabbed these on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. They come in 2 packs. And so I bought 4 XT30 connectors. And again, like I said, it comes with 2 XT60 connectors But I actually have 4 XT60 batteries, so I purchased another set of XT60 connectors. And so now you see why I didn't dump all of this on you at once. This is not all the cables that it comes with, but we're starting to get a little overwhelming here with all the wiring. So going back to our example, if we want to charge this battery, we plug in the banana jacks for that channel. It's got 4 channels, and we plug in the battery there, and now we're ready to charge. In order to charge that up, you have to have some power going to the charger. So let's talk about some of the power options. On the back, you can see it's got these 2 nice fans. It's got these USB charging ports, which frankly I've never used, so I can't speak to how good those are or not. But these 2 ports are the ones that you're interested in for the power. So this is the AC power port, and it comes with this nice AC charging cable. It's a little weird. It's got these 3 lobes, so it's not quite like the standard PC power connector that we're all used to. It's a little different. And that just plugs in right there like that. And that's if you're going to use AC power. But I actually don't use AC power. What I use is the XT60 jack. And so you've got a couple of options here. This is if you want to power your charger via DC 12 volt. You can, this cable comes with the charger, and you can use this to clamp onto your battery connector on your truck or your van or your car. And that's really handy because if you're out in the field, if you want to, it's got a little carrying handle there. If you want to take this with you out into the field so that you can charge batteries or on the road or whatever, this is a really handy option to have. And the reason why they do this, the reason why they don't give you a cigarette lighter is because this thing draws so much current. It draws a lot of amps. And so you want to make sure that you plug it into something that's not going to melt the wiring. So with these alligator connectors here, you can attach it right to the battery under your hood, and that'll be a great charging port. However, what I do, I have a solar generator, and I also have pretty hefty wiring in my van. I've got one of those Ford Transit vans, and they come with, I don't remember the exact amperage, but they come with a fairly high amperage wiring system, DC wiring system inside the van. And the reason for that is that they're typically used as work vans. So you get a lot of guys using the USB charging port or the DC charging ports for like work batteries, for lithium ion tools and things like that. So they have to handle a lot of current. So what I did is I made up a cable. This is 10 gauge wire. I'm pretty sure I bought this at AutoZone. I've got an AutoZone fairly close to my house. And I just soldered on an XT60 connector. I think that's female. And on the other end, I like to use Anderson connectors for everything. If you watch this channel a lot, you're quite familiar with me and the Anderson connectors. So I crimp on some Anderson connectors on the other end. And so what this allows me to do is I have solar generators. So I plug that in back there. And then I'll have a solar generator like this Goal Zero Yeti 400. This thing's kind of aging at this point. And this is basically, if you've never seen a solar generator before, this is basically an AGM 12 volt battery. So it's a fairly small battery. It's smaller than a car battery, but it's deep cycle. And it also has, it used to have an inverter. I removed that because mine failed. I broke it, I got it wet. And it still has a charge controller. And so you can plug this up to a solar panel and you can charge the battery up from the solar panel. So it's basically just a battery and a charge controller. But it has these ports on the side, these Anderson ports. And so I can plug my charger into the Anderson ports on the side. And there you go. You got power to your charger. So let's just go through a charge cycle for this battery, and I'm going to move the camera so that you can see the LCD a little bit more clearly. All right, so now that we're up close and personal with this thing, so we've got our balance cable plugged in for our battery, and we've got our power cable plugged in, and I'm just going to show you all of this on one channel with only one channel plugged in so as to not make it, confusing. So when you turn it on, this button here is the channel select, and actually looks like I've still got my plastic on my screen there. That may make that a little bit more visible to the camera. Okay, so when you turn it on, you get this menu, and you can swap through the channels by pressing the channel button here. So we can press that once, and these LEDs show which channel on front you're using. So I'm using the second LED, which means that I'm selecting options for this second channel here. So you can just page through the channels, and you have to do this for every channel. If you're used to using an IMAX B6AC, you'll be very familiar with this interface. I would almost venture to say that they're using the same firmware internally because the interface is almost identical once you're in a channel. The only difference is that you've got this channel select that allows you to choose the individual channels. So we're using this channel on the left here, channel number 1, and I just press the increase button to go to LiPo balance, and I'll press enter once. And so now I'll decrease my amperage for this battery. This battery is not entirely dead. It's been used a few times, but I don't think it's dead yet. And it is a 500 milliamp hour battery. So I can charge that at 2C, or I should be able to charge that at 2C safely. So 1C would be 0.5 amps and 2C is 1 amp. So I'm going to charge this at 1 amp. Hit enter. And now you select whether it's a 4S or a 3S or whatever. Now, one thing that I have noticed about this charger that's different from my old IMAX B6AC is that it doesn't detect an incorrectly plugged balance cable immediately. It takes a second for it to detect it. So let's test that. If I go down to 3S, because I know that this is a 4S battery, if I go down to 3S and I lock that in, battery check, wait. Okay, so it does say battery over voltage. That's good. That's exactly what we want. But I have had situations where it doesn't say that immediately. It may say that the battery is plugged into the wrong balance port after a minute. So let's try maybe disconnecting the balance cable. Let's see if that works. 4S. There we go. See, it let you go, and it lets you start charging, even though the balance cable isn't connected. But then it says battery voltage error, cell connect. So it does stop after a while, but it takes a second for it to stop. So that's just one of the things that I've noticed about this charger. It's a little weird. Also, the other thing that I've noticed is that it's very, very easy to, if you have all of these balance cables plugged in to all of these ports and you have all of these power cables plugged into the banana plugs, it's very easy to mix and match by accident. So what you might do is you might use the power cable from channel number 1 and the balance cable from channel number 2 by accident, and you won't realize it, and those are plugged into the same battery. And if you do that, that's very dangerous because you can overcharge your battery, especially if you have 2 batteries plugged in. So say you've got, the same 500 milliamp battery plugged into 2 channels, but you've crossed over the ports, it's going to continue charging one battery and think that it's not charged yet because it's looking at the balance port from the other battery. So you can get into a really bad situation by doing that. So this is the only safety consideration that I would say you really need to watch out for with this charger, and that is make sure that you only have one battery plugged in at a time as you start charging. So for example, I'm going to plug in this battery to this balance cable and this power cable, and I'm going to get it charging on that channel. And I'm going to go through that whole process with the menu and everything before I plug in my second battery. And so when you do it that way, it greatly reduces the chance that you're going to cross over the cables because it'll detect that you don't have the balance cable plugged in immediately if you do it that way. Okay, so let's go through this. We'll hold this down. We're going to confirm. All right, and again, this is plugged into my solar generator via this 10 gauge cable. So this is running off of DC power right now. And we can see on the solar generator that, well, it's not actually giving us a current meter. Hang on. So the current meter on the Yeti 400 doesn't go through the Anderson ports. It doesn't watch the Anderson ports. So I have this little hobby grade current meter that I can use. There we go. Okay, so let's start that again. All right. So the current meter is now saying that we're drawing 20 watts, and the charger says that we're drawing 1.0 amps, and the current meter says we're drawing 1.65 amps. So part of that is probably the electronics on the charger drawing their own amp load, and I guess it draws about a half an amp, something like that. So there you go, 20 watts, pretty cool. Let's add another battery. Okay, so this is my 3S battery from my Taranis, my X9D LiPo, and I don't charge this one very often, but we'll go ahead and charge this one too. So this uses I don't remember what these are called, these little red connectors. And the Venom charger does indeed come with a red connector charger. So we'll plug that in. I think you only get one of these, but you can buy more if you need them. So we'll plug that into channel 2. And we'll also plug in another balance cable here. Okay. And let's go ahead and, I stopped everything because I was getting the cables, but let's go ahead and start channel 1 again. All right, so that one's running and it's ramping up, 20 watts. All right, let's plug in channel 2. So this is a 3S battery instead of a 4S, so we're going to plug it into the 3S balance port here. And we're going to take our little red connector and plug it into the red connector here. Sorry, JST, I think that's what these are called, JST connectors. All right, there we go. And we're going to move over to channel 2. And this is the nice thing, I can charge a 4S on channel 1 and I can charge a 3S on channel 2. It's very flexible in that way. So let's see, we need to charge a 2500 milliamp hour. So I will put this on 5 amp. Is that right? 2.5 times 2? Yeah, okay. And it's a 3S. And there we go. Now if we look at our current meter, it's gone from 20 watts up to 88 watts, and from 1.6 amps up to 7.42 amps of draw. And my poor little AGM battery is probably not too happy with this. The current, or the charge, the state of charge indicator has fallen off pretty dramatically. So I don't actually use this tiny little Yeti to do this. I could use my van battery if the engine was running. You wouldn't want to do this on a starter battery for a vehicle if the engine wasn't running. But if the engine's running, then you're going to supplement with the alternator and recharge the battery as you're drawing from it. So I could do this with the van engine while it's running. I also have a much larger solar generator, and that's what I actually usually attach this to. Or you could just plug it into the wall, into the AC cable if you want. It's a very flexible charger. Saves a lot of time too. Okay, so another safety consideration here, and this is one that I had never run into before. This is an issue that I didn't run into before. When I was just unplugging all of this stuff to show you a different scene, I made the terrible mistake of unplugging the banana cables from the charger first. So I had this connected up to the battery here, like this, right? And I had turned off the charger, but the battery still has current, right? So I made the massive mistake of unplugging these two cables. So I unplugged those like this, and then they touched. And so that's direct current from the battery. That's a short. I could have caused a fire or burned my house down or something. So you want to be careful never to do that. You want to always leave these plugged in, and you want to unplug from the battery first. Okay, that's the safest way to do that. There's a lot of safety involved with these LiPos. You got to be careful around them. All right, so I think this is everything that it comes with as far as cabling goes. You get an AC power cable. You get two XT60 connectors. You get two of these banana plug kind of multi-adapter cables. And so these two cables plug into any of these other ones here. And so this is where your JST connector comes from, your alligator cable if you want to charge a battery with alligator cables. And these blue ones, I think I've seen these blue ones used on much larger batteries like 6S and things like that. I don't actually know the name of those. And also this red one and the white one. And this one looks like something very similar to a servo connector. I'm not sure what that one is either. But you get all of these, and then you get 4 balance charging cables, which are very handy, and you also get an XT60 alligator cable for powering the unit. So this one is for charging batteries, and this one is for powering the charger itself. What you don't get, again, is you don't get Fat Shark barrel plug chargers. Not many of us use these anymore anyway. Those are kind of a throwback to 2015. You don't get a full complement of 4 XT60s. You have to buy those. And you don't get any XT30s with the package, so you have to buy those as well. But they're not terribly expensive. It's not a bad deal. One thing that I've noticed about the charger is my IMAX B6AC used to have a temperature port where you could plug in a temperature probe, and so the charger would know if you were going into thermal runaway and one of your batteries was going to burn your house to the ground, so that it could turn off current to that battery and stop charging it, right? Potentially avoid like a dangerous situation. There are still options in the menus for a temperature probe, but I haven't actually seen a port for a temperature probe anywhere on the Venom Pro Quad. So probably the headers are there on the motherboard somewhere, but I don't think they've actually added them to the exterior of the case anywhere. So you can't actually use a temperature probe. I find that a little disappointing. That's probably one of the most disappointing things about this charger for me. But it's not the end of the world. As long as you're diligent and you stay around in the general area where your batteries are charging, it's okay. And I mean, honestly, like, since you're charging 4 batteries at a time, and usually you can charge at 2C, usually you can charge all 4 of your batteries in 15 minutes. So that's not like a huge deal. Like if you had 4 batteries that you were charging with B6AC, then you would have to stick around for 4 times as long, so like an hour, right? But 15 minutes isn't too bad. I don't really recommend this, but I bought one of these Cool Case LipoGuard cases, and this is like a fire-resistant, I want to say it's a fire-resistant fiberglass for charging my batteries in. These are not like the end-all be-all for protection. An ammo case, like an ammo can, would be more protection, or maybe some concrete blocks or something like this. But I think probably these fiberglass fireproof cases are a little bit better than just charging your batteries with nothing at all. So I thought I would illustrate what that looks like when I've got it all hooked up and I'm actually charging batteries. So I keep my batteries inside the fireproof case, and I just run all of my balance leads and power leads into the case, and then I usually don't even bother zipping it up. I just kind of let the flap close over it like that. And it's convenient, and it kind of takes care of the mess a little bit. Like I like that the cables come off the front of the unit instead of coming out of the unit on all sides like a spider, like some of the other multi-channel chargers. But you know, it's probably not the end-all be-all for protection. So particularly if you have one of these chargers and you think you have a better protection setup, by all means leave me a comment down below and let me know how you charge your batteries, because I feel like I could probably be a little safer. All right, I hope that was useful. Venom Pro Quad charger, like I said, I bought this with my own money. I like it. You know, it scares me a little bit. I think I could probably burn my house down pretty quickly if I wasn't super careful. But it saves me a lot of time, and so I guess I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of safety for having, you know, all of those minutes back in my life when I'm charging batteries. So I don't actually take this with me on the road very often. I've actually never taken it anywhere because it's just got so many cables. Like I don't like dragging it around, but I suppose if you really knew that you're going to be charging a lot of batteries in the field, it would be handy, and you could just make up a little, you know, it's easy to carry around. The cables, you can throw them all in your LipoSafe bag, and yeah, it works. You can charge it all off of 12-volt DC. Anyway, I have links to all of this stuff down below the video in the description. The XT30 cables that I showed off, the XT60s that I bought, and the charger itself, so, and also the LipoSafe bag. So take a look at those if you're interested in this charger, if I've sold you on any of this stuff, or if you're just curious about pricing or anything like that. Again, that's down below the video in the description. As always, thanks for watching, and please subscribe.